Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, don't cheap out on IP, it'll bite you. The second story, supervisor didn't want to pay me the $10.50 for me to be a lead for the day, and instead cost the airline thousands. The third story, I was forced to clean the hangar so I stopped doing my job. Today's first story is, don't peeve off IT. Not too far back in my career, I was working at a lighting design company. Makes lighting fixtures for richer people, costs a lot of money. Well, this company has been pen and paper for inventory and work orders, etc., and are trying to join the digital age. Well, in comes me, college kid with a computer science degree and no experience. They say, we will give you a raise while working our technical aspects and give you more work time. I had a wedding to pay for, so more money and time is a huge thing at this point in my life. So I needed a decent PC to run the 3D modeling software, internet, the inventory system, and a lot of time to put all the different models into a database. They got me a cheap PC, poor internet connection, had no inventory system, and wanted a from-the-ground-up full database in 6 months with no issues. They said they would check monthly on my progress to grade my tenacity. Now I go to work, I get the models built, and into a file type to be transferred to a database. Start scouting different servers I could use for this. Cost effectiveness, or I could write my own program as a basic prototype to just get it done. It's been hell to work with the bosses, as they keep using the cheapest trial software, and every time they do it ends with me having to start from scratch yet again, because they won't pay for a good system, swearing that they can easily save money. Finally, I have about 90% of the files done, and it's 2 weeks from the deadline, Christmas time and final exams for my certs. Well, boss number 2 calls and tells me they forgot to check for the last 5 months, and begins screaming how I was incompetent for not having even half of them done. I was bewildered. He says to check Form A2 for the list of pieces they wanted done. They never sent me that list. It was in no email, not in the team file share, nothing. He says, here's the file, why didn't you say anything sooner? Get it done, I don't care what it takes. By the way, with this terrible performance, you're not getting a raise. How was I supposed to know of a form that never existed? I look at the file. It took 5 months to translate and store 300 of these files. With that form, he added another 1,300-ish. I was peeved. Cue the malicious compliance. They told me work from home and as long as it takes. So I made a macro with my PC and set it up to fill out those files, but the macro speed was limited by Google Sheets loading time. May have purposely slowed it down, who knows. So it was slightly slower than hand typing but required no input from me. I was free to spend my time playing games, watching TV, etc. Well, about a week in and I get a call about me never clocking out for work. I told him to look at the files. Every time a file was added, it was clocked in the system down for the second. Never had I heard man so peeved about losing that much in wages. What pushed him over the edge was me telling him the money spent paying me for doing this was more than just giving me good software, but I did what it took to get it done. The paycheck was great. The time off was great, and they still don't know how a macro works. The second story is, the time the airline I worked for lost thousands because they didn't want to pay me $10.50. So the year before COVID hit the US, I started working for one of the major airlines at my local airport as a baggage handler. I absolutely loved the job. I just enjoy being around planes from the ground level. When I started, there were no full-time positions available, so I was working part-time, 6-hour nights 5 times a week. The way it usually works is each gate has a lead, the person with extra training to do the load planning and scanning, and towing the planes to the runway as well as guiding them in, and a few baggage handlers. I decided I was going to try to become a lead even though they usually want you to work a year or so as a handler first. I was confident and ended up passing the training course with ease. The problem was they had no availability for more leads, so I was put into what was basically an on-call lead kind of thing, where they could upgrade me for the day if they needed more leads. Now, whenever they upgrade you to lead, even if it's for a single flight, they have to pay you the extra $175 an hour. Leads get for your whole shift. Remember, I work 6 hours a day, so $10.50 is the cost to make me a lead for my shift. Now, for a few months, everything was great. I was a part-time baggage handler, but I was working as a lead for my whole shift every shift, and I was loving every second of it. Something about towing huge planes full of people to the runway was just awesome to me. Enter everyone's favorite virus, good old COVID-19. Within months, the airline industry is tanking pretty hard, as nobody wants to travel and get stuck somewhere. Supervisors are being told to cut costs everywhere they can, which makes sense given the circumstances. Cue up the night of my MC. It's maybe 11 p.m., and I'm on till 1 a.m. Supervisors have sent a large chunk of workers home, and those of us left are being sent all over the airport to cover the flights we do still have coming. I get a call from the office that assigns your flights, and I'm told to go grab a box and a walkie. The stuff needed to plug into the plane to talk to the flight deck. They tell me head to the gate, the flight's landing in 5, and just to put in my request for lead. When asked to be a lead, you put it in on the company app, and a supervisor approves your pay raise for the day. I get to my gate check, the load coming off the plane, brief the handlers on what's coming down, and we all get to our sports to bring the plane in. I see the plane coming down the lane to my gate, and at the same time my zone's supervisor drives up to my gate and asks me to come over. He then tells me something along the lines of, "Hey man, we can't upgrade you to lead right now. We just can swing that extra expense right now." I respond with, "Okay, so who's going to bring this plane? Is nobody else on the gate is lead trained? And supervisors are not allowed to do any of our work because of the union rules." He then tells me he's going to find another lead to bring it in, and to just assist him when he arrives. So I'm like, sure, whatever. Now, it's important to note that planes have very tight metrics for how long it can take to bring a flight in, unload, and reload for the next flight. The flight pulls up to the edge of my gate and comes to a stop. There's no lead, they're guiding them in, so the flight just sits there waiting and the entire gate crew are also just standing around waiting. 20 minutes go by and my radio I still have on me goes off, and the office is peeved. They want to know why the hell I'm holding this flight short and not bringing it in, to which I reply with, "What do you mean ex-supervisor told me they couldn't afford to pay me for lead work today, and that he would find someone else?" He then asks me if I can please just bring it in for him, and I said sorry, but if you're not willing to pay me to do the lead work, then I'm only going to do the handler work I'm being paid for. As it turns out, they sent too many leads home this night, and the ones they did have were all busy on flights already. After about 45 minutes, a lead from 2 terminals over finally strolls up, and we're able to unload the plane as usual, but that 45 minutes the plane sat idle at the gate. Cost thousands in extra fuel, plus OT for flight attendants forced into mandatory overtime from the situation. Not to mention all the passengers who were pissed off from the extra wait, who were all comped some credits with the airline for the trouble. I also come to find out the supervisor's bonus were based on flight turn time, and this 45-minute short hold probably cost him his bonus in a write-up. So basically, this supervisor didn't want to pay me the $10.50 for me to be a lead for the day, and instead cost the airlines thousands on a heavily delayed plane at the gate. And probably his yearly bonus that all could have been avoided by just paying me the extra $175 an hour for my 6-hour shift. The last story is, mop the office because I told you to. Airman. Both times it happened, I feel were deliciously executed. Both were at the same base and same aircraft. MC number 1. I was a first-term airman working in a back shop. I worked on aircraft parts in a room all day, and we also at the time took care of semi-annual aircraft inspections. It was a great way to learn one side of the big picture. Roughly 1 month before this, we received a new inbound from a different base. He was 1 rank higher than myself, had a promotion incoming, and had been in for a few years more than myself. This guy was a piece of work, let me tell you. He was one of those that thought he was the best of the best because he came from overseas. Side story. Our safety supervisor in our flight called him out on his boots not being safety towed. This guy straight up lied to him saying, "In Japan, I had these specially made. They put the steel toe in them." This is when the safety bro took his thumb and pressed hard right in his mirror, finished shine boot, and cracked the ever-living SH out of the shoe polish. Safety bro then told him he could not wear non-safety toed shoes in the shop and walked off. Safety bro was a straight G. The day in question was a Friday. We always swept and mopped on Friday. This Friday was one of those you didn't want to happen in aircraft maintenance. It seemed like everything broke, so we got slammed with parts. Not a problem to me, I just did my work, and by the end of the days when it was time to go, this stellar airman had the gall to tell me to mop the floor. Not exactly the words as it went down, as this happened like 20 years ago. "Airman, mop the floor so we can go home." "Why don't you do it? I've been busy all day and you've been in processing." "Because I outrank you and you're a new airman." "Alright, fine." By this time it's 15 minutes till the end of our duty shift, and my flight chief has explicitly made the rule that no one can leave until he checks the daily checklist. Cue the MC. I proceeded to get the mop, take the time to fill it and find simple green. If you're prior mill, you know sometimes you just don't have, well, anything. Bring the mop into the office and mop as slow and thorough as I possibly can. Already by the time I got back, he was being impatient. I got about 1/3 of the way through with the first section of the office when he tries to grab the mop from me saying, "You're taking too long. I will finish mopping." I keep a firm grip on the mop and said, "No, you wanted me to mop the office. I'm mopping the office." By this time, my flight chief knew exactly what I was doing and yelled from his office to let me finish what I started. After all of this, I probably kept him over by about 25 to 30 minutes, as the flight chief was the one whom dismissed us. I will say he never made me mop the floor again if he could help it. Additional info. This guy didn't last long in the back shop. I don't remember where he went, but it wasn't on the same aircraft on the base. MC number 2. I was now a sergeant in charge of my airmen for a shift on the flight line. For my career field, it's really feast or famine when it came to workload. This day, with me being the highest ranking and the only person able to sign off my guys' work for 2 to 3 other guys. It was a feast of a day. We had enough broke jets for all of us to work at the same time. Granted, the guys knew what we needed to get done, but we had normal shift work plus what broke that day to work on, as the flying was not done during the normal time frame. I had already had a plan in place, and we were ready to hit the line to get it all knocked out, when in comes the expediter, guy in charge of maintenance for the squadron. Again, this is not how the convo went down. Going off of memory. Hey, Sergeant, I need one of your airmen to clean the hangar. It's a mess and it needs to get done. Are you serious? Do you know how much of a workload we have tonight? Why don't you get one of the different career field airmen to do it? He's literally on the computer looking at BS. I don't care. As a matter of fact, you mop the hangar. Really? Yes, really. Cue the MC. The aircraft we had fit 2 in a hangar. We were in charge of 1 bay. The hangar was roughly 160 by 170. So I was ordered to clean an 80 by 70 area. I decided to do this by hand. The floor was broken up in rectangles. From memory, I think it was 5 or 6 rectangles deep, 70 by 3 or 4 wide, 80. I mopped each rectangle with 1 mop bucket, then proceeded to change out the water. Obviously, this took almost the entire night. Not sure if he got talked to about having the only qualified person to sign off work, besides the production supervisor. By the way, he was in charge of the expediters. Mop the hangar while there was work for us to do. That evening, he did give me props on how well I cleaned the hangar. He even said something about the fact that it was spotless, but I never got asked, nor did he ask for someone from my career field to clean the hangar again. Additional info on story above. Our expediter had recently came from another base, and was the same career field as myself, but he was a rank higher and had 0 experience on this platform, so I wasn't qualified to sign work off, yet. He came from F-15 RAF, where we do blah blah blah, and make sure we meet blah blah blah. Though because of our longer fixed rate time, he thought the work they did was better. He did end up calming down a lot and became our flight chief. I will say he's one great guy. Just took him some time to get used to the base. Be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and have a good day.